So Dorian, when you do an incline, where do you want to bring the bar down? I mean, I see some guys bring it a little bit lower down, some guys bring it right above the, the neck. I mean,
I'm bringing it like clavicle or just below the...
Could you maybe show us where you want to demonstrate on incline, or?
It's a bit heavy for me. I'll come from. So, medium grip. If you go too narrow, obviously you're going to throw too much on the tricep. If you go too wide, you're spraining the shoulder joint, and it's a very short movement. Yeah. Function of the pecs is to bring the upper arm down and across. That's the function of the chest. So from here, you're going to make sure everything's tight. Pecs are tight, everything's tight. Nice and control on the way down. Feel the stretch, and then boom, let the power go, yeah? Always control the negative. You see a lot of people, I've done one, I've done two. Yeah, they're doing half reps, yeah? This is a rep. There's one half, there's the other half. A lot of the muscle damage happens on the negative, yeah? It's the damaged muscle that repairs itself that then creates muscle growth. So you're cheating yourself if you're going to just drop the bar down, right? So you come down to here, feel where it's comfortable. If you can get it all the way down to your chest and it's comfortable, if not, if that feels like a full range, don't worry about it, go to there, yeah? As long as you're getting a stretch. Slow negative, explode on the way up. Concentrate on pushing with your pecs.
I got a question for you. As far as upper inner pec development, would you say that's more of a matter of just building enough overall mass where it eventually just has to pop off of your rib cage, or is that more like an isolation? Would you say?
You can't isolate different areas of the chest, right?
Yeah.
You know, it all originates from here, yeah? And it attaches to your sternum. So whenever your pecs contract, the whole thing's going to contract. But there will be more stress, more emphasis on certain areas depending on the angle of exercise that you do. Can you make your chest grow here and not here? No, it's physiologically impossible, right? The whole pec's contracting. So if it's thicker here and a little narrow here, it's normally just a matter of that's your genetic structure, yeah? You just got to get the whole thing bigger, yeah. 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 You know, my chest naturally was very shallow at the top to start with, so I concentrate on incline, and I don't like to have the bench too steep. If I could have it a little bit lower than that, I would do, you know? So it's throwing less stress on my deltoids and more on the pec. And you know, concentrate on what you're doing rather than just like going from A to B. You've got to concentrate on that pec, coming across, squeezing. Try to, like, it's the exact opposite to powerlifting. Powerlifting, your job is to get the weight from A to B and move as much weight as you can by any means necessary, you know? Bodybuilding is like the opposite. It's like, how can I do this exercise to make it as hard as possible for my pecs and minimize the involvement of everything else? That's the way you've got to think.
On cable crossovers, do you find that to hit different parts of your chest, you tend to do bent over as opposed to more upright? Is there a way that you prefer to do it, or that you think?
Again, I mean, your whole pec's contracting, so it's not making a hell of a lot of difference. It's a decent isolation exercise, you know. You're not involving triceps too much, although it's still supporting. So you're isolating the pecs without too much involvement from your triceps. But would it be high on my list of things to do? Not really, you know. You're going to get much more involvement from pressing movements and dumbbell flies and stuff like that. So I do cable crossovers now just because shoulder injury prevent me from doing too much pressing. So it's like a compromise, you know.
Cable crossovers or any type of cable movement, what do you say is the best for, like, most of the time?
It's a strong contraction, you know. I'm not a big fan of like crossing over, you know, right? Yeah, going under the arms, going over. But I'll just bring it down to some point where it contracts. If you feel a better contraction, slightly twisting it, great, you know. Just make sure you're going through a full range of motion and you're controlling the weight all the time. And I just try to like think of my arms as a hook, you know, that's connecting the weight to the pec. So see a lot of people doing this. It's a pressing movement. Yeah? You can do that much more effectively with a free weight. So I'm trying to think, my arms are hooked like that. It's slightly bent, almost like it's got a plaster cast on it. I can't move it. That's it. I'm just going to stay like that. Go to the bottom, contract, squeeze, slowly up. Like that. You know, you want to do it this angle, you want to do it this angle. Doesn't matter what angle, you know.
Sometimes I notice when I'm doing incline, the very next day, I'll be more sore in my front deltoid. Is that because I'm going too wide, or is that because I'm going down too far?
I mean, it could be that you're going too wide. It's most likely that the bench is also probably, the angle is too high. You know? The problem with the mistake I see a lot of the benches is this fixed, yeah? There's no choice for it. I prefer one that you can knock it down a little bit and have it on the low incline. And I think you get more pec involvement and less delts. Although, you know, they're connected, you can't isolate them. But I think if it's steep, you know, just up here, there's definitely more deltoid involvement as opposed to down here where you're using more pec, you know?
Yes, do you have any, I remember watching some of your videos. You used to have like a lot of elbow problems and stuff. That I have the same problem when I'm training chest. Sometimes like almost like the tendonitis type of feel. What did you do for it? Did you have? You must have had a certain technique.
Slip-on wrap. It wasn't really supportive. It was just more to keep heat around the area. But eventually, I tore my tricep tendon because I had that tendonitis ongoing for a very long time. And I didn't really deal with it. It was there in the background all the time, and it just weakens the tendon. So, you know, I know you don't want to do it, but if you've got pain there and that's been going on for some time, you need to probably just don't do anything that's going to involve that tendon for a while. Get therapy on it, get some deep tissue therapy to break down the scar tissue, to get new blood flow in there, get the nutrients in there, get the blood in there to repair the tissue. And when you've done that, maybe it's going to take you a month or something, yeah? But in the long run, let's say a month's rest and a month's therapy, and then you can go back to training and build up, and you're going to be able to progress. Rather than struggling with that, you're probably not going to progress that much, and one day it might turn into something much more severe, and that's going to put you back years, you know? So it's like you got to look at it in the long term like that. Deal with it, you know. If it's causing you pain, you need to deal with that. Get some therapy on it.
It's hard to do, obviously, because you never want to. If it's not that bad, you obviously want to keep training.
Take it from there.
Yeah.
I got enough injuries.
Sure.
You know, I got shoulder tendon tears. I got tricep tendon tears. Now I can't train the way I want to do. So maybe if I'd have dealt with it back then, took a little bit more time about it, it would have been. I'd still be able to do it today. You know.
For incline, would you do a barbell and dumbbell in the same workout?
No, there's no point in doing that. Do a barbell or a dumbbell. If you want to alternate it, you know, do barbell one workout, do dumbbell another workout. There's no point doing exercises that basically duplicate the same thing. You know, do this exercise. When you've done that and you've gone to failure and you've done your job, go to a different angle. It's going to slightly emphasize the different areas of pecs a little bit more. You know? Try to have a reason for exercise that you're doing.
You did a lot of barbell decline, correct? Didn't you say the big wheel?
You know, decline bench press is probably the most underrated exercise because a lot of people think, oh, decline, that's for my lower chest. Nobody needs more lower chest. It's not. It works the whole pec, yeah. And the function of the pec is to bring the upper arm down and across the body. That's what the pec does, yeah. A bench press is very small movement down across the body. Change the angle to there. There's much more pec involvement. So decline, I mean, that was my main mass builder, pretty much. Decline, and then I shifted more towards incline later on. But decline, that was one of the best mass builders. Takes all the strain off that deltoid pec tendon area, which is very vulnerable to injury. 95% of bodybuilders, athletes, powerlifters that have a pec tear, I don't even need to ask them how they did it. They did it on bench press, yeah? So bench press officially is a shitty pec exercise, yeah? It's very dangerous. You risk tearing your tendon. Unless you're a powerlifter, don't even do it. Forget about it. Forget about that exercise, yeah? There's much more effective exercises for your pecs. Decline press is way better, low incline is way better, dumbbell flies are way better, and you're eliminating that injury risk. Why risk getting injured for something that's not really giving you any benefit, you know?
You a fan of pullovers? Dumbbell pullovers for pec development, or do you think that's more of a lat exercise?
Not a pec exercise, right? They're a lat exercise, and they're a long head of a tricep exercise. You know, pecs bring your upper arm down across your body. They're not doing that. That's a lat movement. Yeah, lats, serratus. All right, maybe a little pec involvement, but very little.
Seems like an indirect
If you're gonna do a dumbbell pullover, do it in your lat workout. No one do it in your pec workout.
For someone who's very bottom heavy in the chest, would you recommend keeping the weight on like incline exercises heavier while keeping the middle and bottom lower until the top catches up?
I would probably start with an incline work, you know. But like I said, you don't isolate your chest. If you're doing a decline press, it's not working here any more than the rest of your chest. Really, it's working the whole pec, you know. You're probably bottom heavy genetically. Yeah, so I would do incline, but not too high, you know. If you do too high, you hit the deltoids too much. So do a low incline, something like this, you know, dumbbell fly, incline barbell press, and then maybe finish with a decline press.
Branch, when I was in Texas, you know, Branch loves, he throws the chains on them, does dips. Were you a big believer in doing dips for chest, or?
I never really did dips for a chest. I did a little bit when I started out, but I found the decline press similar but better exercise. And you know, it depends on the width of the bar and everything. If you get a wider decline and you lean into it, you'll use a lot of pecs. But it was an exercise that I really felt and really suited me. I'm not saying it's not any good. You know, it works for some people, right? You gotta experiment and try. If you do it more upright, then it's more tricep. If you lean into it, then you're using more pec.
What do you think's the ideal placement of like in a training split for chest, as far as trying to separate chest from delts from triceps? What's your ideal way, you think?
Well, however you split it, there's going to be some crossover, right? I used to do chest and biceps, and then I would do legs. Then I would take a day off. Then I would do deltoids and triceps. So there's some 3 or 4 days in between those workouts, you know.
Did you stay with that split throughout your whole career, or did you ever switch it up? Which body
I
parts you
changed things around a little bit, but the last 4 or 5 years I was competing. That was pretty much it. And it came around that I was training each body part every 6 or 7 days. It used to be 2 days in the gym, 1 day off, 2 days in the gym, 1 day off. So it's a 6-day cycle. But within that, I was flexible. It was like, you know, if I came to train something and for some reason I wasn't feeling recovered, I would just take an extra day off, yeah? You're not getting any rewards for how often you go to the gym, yeah? You go to the gym, if you give your body more stress or an unusual stress that it's not used to, that muscle growth is just a reaction to stress, yeah? It's your body's defensive mechanism. Oh, this guy is giving me more stress on the muscles than I can handle. I'm not used to this. So you know what? I need to build myself up a little bit more so that next time I can handle it. That's basically the process. So you go in, you're giving your muscles stress, you're damaging, you're breaking them down. Now you've got to allow enough time for that recovery process to take place before you start hitting it again. If you hit it again before it's recovered, you're just constantly breaking yourself down. There's an analogy I use sometimes. If you get a piece of it's called sandpaper over here, you know that you rub wood with, you rub the wall. You get a piece of sandpaper and rub it on your hand like that until you start bleeding, right? You leave your hand for a few days or whatever, it's going to repair itself. And it's going to be, you know, the skin's going to come back a little thicker and a little stronger than before because it's a defensive thing, right? You know, very simple analogy, but that's like that with the muscle, right? So let's say you got this sandpaper. You did all this till it's bleeding, right? You don't leave it so long, you leave it a couple of days. It's still a bit red and not really healed up. Just breaking it down again. That you're never going to develop those calluses because all you just keep breaking down. So it's the same kind of thing, you know? Of course, if you get the sandpaper and you hardly touch yourself and you're like that, you can go and do that every day, but you're not going to develop any calluses. So in other words, you can go to the gym and piss about every day if you want to, because you've got nothing to recover from, but you're not going to get anywhere either.
You find that over time, obviously I think it's a yes, but as you grow and as you get bigger, your recovery time is much longer, regardless of rest and food. Just as you get stronger, your overall intensity throughout a workout.
Because let's say, simple things again, but just to make an example. Let's say you go to the gym, you start training, you can squat 100 pounds for 10 reps. A few years down the line, let's say, now you can now squat 400 pounds for 10 reps, right? Obviously squatting 400 pounds for 10 reps, there's a lot more stress on your system than squatting 100 pounds. So your muscles have got bigger and stronger, but your nervous system is still the same nervous system that you had when you was doing 100 pounds. So that's 4 more times stress that you had to deal with. So obviously it takes longer to recover from that. So actually, you know, when I started bodybuilding, it used to be a beginner's routine. Beginner's routine, 3 sets of 10 bench press. An intermediate routine, 3 sets of bench, 3 sets of incline, 3 sets of this. An advanced routine, 5 sets of this, 5 sets of this, 5 sets of this, 5 sets of this. They used to recommend the more advanced you get, the more that you do. It's the exact opposite. Yeah, it's the exact opposite. Because look at people when they go to the gym. The first year they go to the gym, it doesn't matter if they overtrain and they're training correctly. The body still adapts in that first year because it can handle that. It's not used to the stress, so any kind of training, you're going to get a reaction. You're going to be able to recover from it. The bigger and stronger you get, the smarter you've got to get about your training and your recovery, you know. Things you used to do when you weren't so big and strong, you can't get away with it anymore. You can't recover from it anymore.
Yeah, it feels like it's that you're getting older, but I guess really what it is training.
You're putting more stress on there. You know, if you used to train your chest twice a week when you were a kid, when you first started and you weren't that strong, you probably get away with it. When you get bigger and stronger and more advanced, there's no way you can do that. And some people need more recovery, some people need less.
How do you feel about straight sets versus, like, I'll see a ton of guys in their videos doing like a bench press, they'll rack it, and then they go straight into flies, like superset drop sets.
I never like doing that because I think I'm dividing my focus. You know, if you're doing that, let's say you're doing that bench press, right? You're not 100% focused and committed to that. Because you know in the back of your mind you're going to go do that afterwards, yeah? So I'd rather get a set and just fill it and milk it until there's nothing left, and then rest.
And you have that mentality the whole season and in the off-season?
You know, the thing that gets you into shape is not doing more exercise or training faster or doing more reps per set. It's having a reduced calorie intake. That's it. You know? So training that build muscle and got it there, that's pretty much the training you've got to do to keep it there when you get ready. It'll make big changes.